Hello everybody, welcome back to MBE. Today I'd like to discuss why a lash cap is more durable than a steel tip on a valve. Okay, so if you can see here, we got the magnet here, it's titanium. So in titanium valves you have to run a steel tip because the tie is too soft. The rocker will wear it out. So if Biggs gets up closer, you can see the color difference. Okay, so you can see the steel tip is from here to here. Okay, and how that is put in there, there's a post. Okay, so here's the steel tip, there's a post, and the steel tip presses into the end of the, presses into the valve right here. And the valve companies never go to the lock groove because that would be a shear point. If this went down there, then that would be a shear point, and then the tip of the valve would break. Okay, so, but even valve companies would rather you run a lash cap than a steel tip. At least every valve company I've dealt with has told me this. Reason being is this doesn't have a tendency to fail ever when you put a lash cap on it. This typical lash cap right here is 110 thousandths deep. It sits on top, and that takes care of your steel tip. So what happens here though is the rocker rolls back and forth on this. Sometimes we've seen that the steel tip, that post can work itself loose because it's tight, it's soft, okay? And every once in a while we see steel tip issues where the heat treat's not correct either. So this gets rid of all of that. So if you just run a lash cap on top of your titanium valve, that's great. The one thing you never, ever, ever want to do, you never want to put a lash cap on top of this steel tip. Reason being is, if you can imagine the rocker going across here, you can imagine the rocker going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What it will want to do, it will want to shear the top of the valve off. And then the valve falls, and then you have oil pan failure. Okay, so always remember that, everybody. Do not run a lash cap on top of a steel tip because eventually it will fail. Okay, the other thing, there's an argument sometimes. You hear an argument. Mind you, I told you this is 110 thousandths deep. You hear arguments sometimes, well, I want to run a steel tip because I don't want my lash cap falling off. I had a lash cap fall off. Well, I think what we need to do is just be a little more accountable and think of why did the lash cap fall off. And I say this because it's very difficult to do. So for that lash cap to fall off, the adjuster, let's move it out. Okay, the adjuster would have to back off 2.5 turns for that to fall off. So you go half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. Does that ever happen? No, it doesn't happen. So I'm not a big fan of that argument because this is a much better way to go. The weight is a push. It's not a very big material, even in steel. It's probably less than a gram, so it makes no difference. But the important things are the lash cap makes it more durable, and never run a lash cap on top of a steel tip. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good day.